You are listening to the Big Blue Marble Podcast with Anwar Knight.
The familiar sounds of a city, cars, trucks, buses, and of course people, lots of people. It is a daily chaotic symphony of business and pleasure, people going to work, school, goods are being delivered, errands being done, and so much more. But in between that noise is the sound of another population. Birds. There are hundreds of different species that migrate through our region. Sadly, not all of them make it. In fact, countrywide, it is estimated around 25 million birds are killed every year as a result of collisions with buildings. Some occur at night, as these nocturnal migrants are drawn to the dazzling bright light displays coming from buildings and other illuminated structures. Caught in a labyrinth of light, they eventually collapse due to distress. While at daybreak, they face another deadly illusion, that of reflective glass. Birds cannot recognize glass as a solid surface. Any reflectivity can make a window look more like vegetation or sky than a solid wall. To them, it appears to be safe passage, and they fly straight into it. Glass is an indiscriminate killer, and it is truly a global concern. Hundreds of thousands of birds are killed every single day around the world. Hello, my friends. So good to have you along. I'm Anwar Knight. It is a privilege to have your company today. This is episode 30 of the Big Blue Marble Podcast. My guest today will be Michael Mesure. He is the co-founder and executive director of FLAP Canada, an organization that for decades have engaged millions of people in an effort to help keep birds safe from deadly collisions with buildings. They are hosting the Global Bird Rescue, a unique initiative that you can be a part of. It doesn't take much time, it can be done on your own property, and will help propel forward changes to help one of the most important species of the world's many ecosystems. He'll let us know about the rescue program, plus share tips on how you can make your home bird safe, including the most common mistake homeowners make when installing a bird feeder in their backyard. Mirror, Mirror, Global Bird Rescue starts now.
Have a question, comment, or show idea? Let us know at bigbluemarble.earth.
And a very good day to you, Michael. Welcome to the Big Blue Marble Podcast.
Good morning.
So you're joining us here from Canada's largest city here in Toronto. It is not only, of course, an economic hub, also has the largest population, but in addition to that, the city is also a migratory superhighway for millions of birds. And I don't know if a lot of people know that. It is a critical stopover point as they migrate over Lake Ontario.
Correct. Yes. In fact, there's over 500 species of birds that have been recorded to reside in or pass through various regions across the province of Ontario. Wow. And this is why the province of Ontario is one of the more popular birding spots across the planet. In fact, people fly from all over the world, in some cases, to see certain species in different areas around the province.
And I guess the big challenge, and what I'm assuming here, has sort of been the inspiration for you and your team, and you've been doing this for almost 3 decades, but to try to figure out how to balance a coexistence between bird populations and maybe the city skyline. And that continues to grow. Our buildings are only getting taller. At last check, I think there's over 100 skyscrapers. Some notably are still under construction. But, what is the bullet here that is killing so many birds? Is it a certain type of glass panel?
Right. Well, I think it's important to point out there's actually 2 different issues that overlap each other. There is bright lights at night, which during the bird migration seasons, for lack of a better term, these nocturnal migrating birds are attracted to brightly lit structures or monuments, but they could be floodlit, they could be office lights escaping through those windows. In those cases, they're drawn into the urban environment. They can either collide outright with those structures or they drop to the ground from exhaustion. Mm-hmm. Then the day breaks, and this is where the bigger issue comes in. It's collisions with windows where the reflective qualities of glass or even the transparent qualities of glass create the illusion of a clear passage. And birds collide outright with those structures. And very important to point out, in those particular cases of daytime strikes, it isn't a 50-story high-rise that presents the greatest threat. Any structure that has windows can present a threat. In fact,
Mhm.
some of the more numerous locations where we pick up a lot of bird collisions during the day are very small structures. They're
Hmm.
not massive buildings. So, and this goes right down to the homeowner. A, a homeowner can even have a utility shed in their backyard that has a
Hmm.
window in its door, and that door can kill birds. So it's everywhere, unfortunately.
Well, that's interesting because that also means, though, the solution is easier to attain. As a homeowner, I mean, I don't own a huge skyscraper. I have a home with windows. So that means there are things we can do. And we'll get into those specific tips a little later on if we can. I just have a question, though. Are there specific species that tend to be at a higher risk for these collisions?
Right. Well, to date, Flap has picked up 100, and I believe we've just picked up our 174th species,
Wow.
just from a small selective group of structures across the GTA.
Yeah.
Um, Within those species that we typically encounter, there are those that are more vulnerable. Like, for instance, there's the golden crowned kinglet, there's the
Mhm.
Tennessee warbler, the brown creeper, the white-throated sparrow, the hermit thrush. Now, for the average person, unless you're an avid birder, you don't even realize these species exist in our country. And again,
Yeah.
in many cases, these birds are just passing through a dense urban center like Toronto. They don't necessarily reside in those areas. But then there's those listed species we picked up. We picked up 22 different listed species that fall under the species at risk across the province, from
Wow.
the wood thrush, the Canada warbler, the red-headed woodpecker, the chimney swift, right? Those are just some of those examples. So it's
Mhm.
very important for people to understand these aren't Canada geese, these aren't house sparrows, these aren't starlings that are vulnerable to these collisions. These are highly vulnerable species that most people don't even realize exist in the province.
Yeah, I was looking at one report suggesting that 1 million birds die from window collisions in the city of Toronto alone each year. Is that an
Yeah,
accurate number?
yeah, it's mind-boggling, isn't it? The way
Hmm.
that statistic works out is the average structure that has glass
Yeah,
has a likelihood of taking 1 to 10 birds each year. You
I see.
multiply that by all the structures in the city of Toronto. There's a million structures in the city of Toronto that have these types of characteristics. But
Mm.
remember something: we have numerous accounts of picking up 50, 100. Our record is losing track of over 500 birds at two structures over a 6 hour period.
Wow.
Not up to 10 birds over the entire year. So,
Yeah.
believe it or not, that is a conservative estimate of a
Hmm.
million birds. It really is. So, we got a big problem here. And it's
Well,
no wonder, yeah,
yeah.
it's no wonder that this issue is considered one of the leading causes of bird death across the country.
And, that is the thing that you guys do at Flap Canada. You track the fatalities, you do a
Yeah.
survey, and is it based on body count? Explain the process, what you guys do. Do you visit just various buildings? Do you put it on a map and sort of figure out and do sort of zones? How does that all come together?
Right. So I think it's important to point out that there's several aspects of what we do, and what you just
Right.
described is one of those things. We have patrols of various volunteers across the GTA that focus on certain structures,
Yeah.
tip of the iceberg of the number of structures that are out there, and monitor those particular buildings. They get there. Some arrive before daybreak that focus the tall, bright lit structures. And then there's a whole gamut of structures during the day, right across from Mississauga to Markham to Scarborough, Etobicoke, Toronto, all being monitored. And they record those records into what we call our Global Bird Collision Mapper. It's an
Mhm.
online GIS database that even members of the public can use to document bird collisions with buildings. Now, we have over 80,000 accounts in the mapper right now,
Wow.
from various locations across the world,
Mhm.
with the bulk of those entries coming right here from across North America. But it's growing. More and more people are learning about this app, and we're seeing, therefore, more and more records being entered into the database.
And is that then, a part of the global bird rescue? Because you talked about mapping, and I went to that website. So this is something that is happening in just the next couple of weeks here, where you have
Correct.
participants really being a part of the solution. Can you explain about the Global Bird Rescue Initiative?
Right. We started this initiative, I think, 4 years ago, and the goal of this initiative is a number of things. We're trying to educate members of the public across the
Yeah.
globe about this particular issue. We're also trying to build a following to better understand the issue, come up with better solutions to the problem, and also document those buildings that are having a significant bird collision problem and offer methods on how they can mitigate that concern. So the mapper is, and this is one of the reasons why the mapper is growing in numbers. We have a number of teams now from across the world that are participating in this event. You can participate as part of a team, or you can just participate on your own. And all you need to do is you go to the globalbirdrescue.org website, and there's a whole series of pieces of information from registering a team to how to
Yeah.
participate right there, easy to follow. And and remember something. The other part of this effort is just to get to those birds that have collided, that are stunned or injured, that might otherwise be able to be released back into the wild. Roughly 30% of the birds that we pick up in our rescue attempts are alive, and we're able to release them again. Um, and in that mix of birds is the odd at-risk species.
Right.
So again, it's just a small way of giving that bird that's struggling in its populations to have a chance of survival as well.
Well, I think you raise a really good point here that not all of them die. Some are quote unquote stunned. So, what do you recommend then for the average person? If I happen to see a bird that is hit, and I've been quite lucky. I think only one bird that we've ever seen in our home in the last maybe 8 years or so.
Mhm.
What do we do if we see a bird that is still alive? Who do we call? What can we do to help that bird?
Right. The first thing you have to do is if you see an injured bird lying on the ground, do not leave it there,
Okay.
because one of the biggest challenges that we have in rescuing birds is predation. We have a number of different types of scavengers that have learned that this has
Yeah.
become an alternative food source for them. So they very quickly find these bodies. They will take those birds away, dead or alive. So what you want to do is you want to contain that bird. Put it inside a paper bag, put it inside a cardboard box, and
Yeah.
put it somewhere warm and quiet for roughly an hour.
Okay.
Do not attempt to feed this bird. Do not give it fluids. Just leave it alone and give it time to gain its composure. You will know very quickly after an hour has passed if that
Right.
bird is going to be released back into the wild or will need to go to a wildlife rehabilitation facility.
Mhm.
If it needs to go to a rehab center, just find one in your local area. Here in Toronto is the Toronto Wildlife Center, as an example.
Yeah.
There are a lot of rehab facilities right across this country in your community that can tend for that bird, give it the care it needs, and hopefully it can survive and be released back into the wild. Okay?
Right. Are there any metrics to suggest the number of birds globally that are killed? I mean, if we look at the figure, and you explained the formula in the city of Toronto, but do we know that?
No. And this is part of the goals of Global Bird Rescue as well, because it's
Right.
amazing. It is absolutely amazing how such a common problem has so little knowledge surrounding it in terms of
Right.
people being aware of how big the problem is. North America is kind of leading the way. In fact, Toronto, quite honestly, is the first city in the world to introduce bird friendly development guidelines
Hmm.
for architects and developers to go to when building new structures to make them safe for birds. Where other parts of the world, they're just not there yet. And
Yeah.
so to have a global figure is not there yet. But for North America, there is. The
Okay.
estimate is that some 1 billion birds are dying each year as a result of collisions with structures. And
Wow.
so Again, it's just you can't even wrap your head around that number, you know. And again, it's a reminder we've got to get our act together here and find a way to reverse this problem. And because quite frankly, if we don't, we are going to lose one of the most valuable natural resources out there. And people need to understand that this isn't just about saving a pretty bird. This is about also saving our rear ends, quite frankly,
No, you're
because
absolutely
yeah,
correct.
yeah, yeah,
You're absolutely correct. And I think, this is really important, and why I asked that about the numbers, because most of us don't see dead birds on the pavement. There may be on occasion at the cottage or maybe in your backyard, but not very often. And especially, in the downtown core, I'm sure a lot of these buildings, their maintenance crews come out early in the morning. They do a quick, discreet cleanup. They don't want dead birds, the carcass by the main doors as you start your day. So this is under our radar. We hear about it, but this is very, important, because the fact that this number of birds are dying, the impacts to biodiversity, millions of birds potentially dying each year, that is dramatic. Ecosystems rely on being interconnected. If one link goes missing, there's that ripple effect, and it's felt throughout the entire system, and maybe to the point of collapse. And I don't think I'm, over exaggerating that, right?
no, no. Look, in my humble opinion, uh, there is this old cliche that
Yeah.
we're sort of on a scale here, and we're really on the cusp of what is it that's going to take that scale to finally drop and the bottom
Right.
fall out. I really do believe that uh, the presence of birds or the loss of birds on this planet is what I think is going to tip that scale,
Right.
because so much starts to fall apart when they're gone. I mean, these birds control our insect populations. They distribute seeds. They pollinate plants. They provide food for other predators. Like, when this is gone, we're in trouble more than
Yeah.
we already are.
It's now another stressor on an already delicate species. Climate change, of course, also changing the habitats, the
Yep.
migration patterns, food sources. I mean, some species will be forced to relocate and others will simply just die off. They can't
Yep.
survive because the balance just isn't there anymore.
That's right. That's right. That's right. There's such a delicate balance. And, really, when you look at all the different type of environmental issues out there,
Yeah.
this particular issue of bird collisions in the built environment is one of the easiest issues to resolve, period. It really doesn't take much to make a significant change take place to give these birds a chance. From, you know, for example, turning off lights in a building. Come on. How
Yeah,
often can you
right.
flick a switch and resolve a problem? Like,
Right.
and really, the abundance of light that we consume is way over the top. It's above and beyond what we need, right?
Yeah. I often wondered that, you drive around in the evening and you go, why are those floors of lights on? There may be,
Yeah.
okay, maybe there's the odd worker. And I say that respectfully. There are some businesses that do 24 hours. I get that. Then you need light. But surely a lot of these buildings, you don't need all of that light on. And I would cringe thinking, what a waste, let alone the impact it has to birds. But just in terms of energy consumption, like we could put timers on floors that, like in Europe, if it senses a body and then it activates. Otherwise, it goes off after several minutes, right? So explain some more, though, on some of those solutions. So turning off the lights is one. What are some others?
The good thing about the nighttime issue is that the average homeowner doesn't typically encounter this problem because collisions with tall structures are just that they're drawn into these bright urban centers. So I would recommend, if you work in an office building, um, and you need light turned on,
Yeah,
well, focus that light on your workstation. You don't need to have every fluorescent light on that entire floor lit for you to be able to
right,
work at that station.
right.
Get task lighting. Focus it on your laptop in your little pod and work with that light. Talk to your property manager and say, hey, look, you need to reprogram these timers. You need to install motion detectors.
Yeah.
You'll save money. by doing
Yeah.
this, which quite frankly is what's making this very attractive to real estate investment companies and building operators. They stand to save a lot of money by
Sure.
responsible light control. When it comes to daytime, um, there's two audiences here. There's the commercial structure audience, and then there's the homeowner audience. When it comes to homeowners, you can do a lot. There's
Yeah.
plenty of product out there now that you can purchase, very cost effective, that you apply to the exterior surface of your window that is proven to be effective at reducing bird strikes. And you can save 80% or more of birds' lives by applying those simple markers. All that information you can get off of our website, flap.org. There's a section dedicated to that.
Right.
Um, Also, bird feeders. And this is we can touch on this perhaps. Bird watching, one of the most popular pastimes across North America. In fact, there's one of a statistic is
Yeah.
bird watching is the second most popular pastime, second only to golf. Golf being number one. So it's a multi-million dollar industry that revenue is generated that goes into our economy.
Right.
Another reason to protect birds, right? But people put bird feeders in their backyard everywhere. If you have a bird feeder in your backyard, you're a bird watcher. You're part of that statistic. So,
Yeah.
but what people tend to do is they put that bird feeder in the worst possible location, which is typically between 5 to 10 feet of a window. And that's
Mhm.
where you increase the potential for birds to collide with your window, and not only collide with it, the distance between the feeder and that window is far enough that that impact is likely to kill the bird. So
Oh,
we're not saying get rid of your bird feeder. The best
right.
location for a bird feeder is right up against the window, and keep it there, because it's not that a bird isn't going it's going to stop a collision. It's just birds tend to glance the glass. They don't have that fatal impact with a window, right?
Interesting.
So that's very important for a homeowner to do as well. The other thing the
And
homeowner can do, if I might just say quickly, because I don't want to forget
yes,
this,
please.
um, advocate to your local council, to your MPP, to
Mm.
make bird-friendly buildings mandatory across the province of Ontario. This is very important because this is where you divide and conquer. The more people that express this concern, the more likely they're going to listen. And so I can't urge people enough to take that on, please. Okay.
And I think it's an easy thing to do, Michael, right? So this event again, it's a week long. It's running October 3rd to the 9th. And as you mentioned, you have teams from around the world. I was on the site, not
Yeah.
only across Canada, you have, Vegas in the US, Chicago, Berlin in Germany, Nepal, China. So
Yeah.
this must really help establish a pretty solid database for those involved.
Yep. Yep. It's a slow but surely growing database, clearly demonstrating that this isn't limited to Toronto.
Mhm.
In fact, if people get the chance to go on to the Global Bird Collision Mapper, it's birdmapper.org. You can see for yourself, navigate the map. You will be blown away at the number of
Mhm.
entries that are in there. And this is only from those very few people that have learned about this database. We
Yeah.
also, this is a really good indicator as well. We also have something called the Bird Crash Bot. And what it is, it's a robot that anytime someone tweets anything
Right.
that resembles a comment about a bird just hit my window, this robot finds it, it retweets that person and gives them tips on how to resolve that problem. There's thousands and thousands of tweets like this that are coming from people just casually mentioning a bird hit my window
Mhm.
all over the world, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, it's just another reminder of the uphill battle we have here. The good news is it really is easy to resolve. And you pointed it out already. And I'll give an example. We've noticed that when a building operator that's reluctant to do something has a major tenant go to them and say, hey, look, we want you to stop this problem at our building, they typically listen, because the bottom line is the tenant is the bottom line for the property manager.
Sure.
They're paying the money. So if the tenant's unhappy, the property manager's unhappy. So people just got to speak up. They got to expect this change to take place, period.
And for the initiative, can you just explain then, if I were to sign up, what do I need to do? What's my responsibility then between October 3rd and 9th? What would I
Right.
have to do to
Okay.
participate?
Sure. There's a variety of efforts that can be taken, a scale, I should say. So You can just sign on as your own,
Yeah.
and you can sit at home. And if a bird happens to hit your window at your house during that week period, you report it into the mapper. Or you can step out and walk around your community and look for birds at just a small selection group of buildings. Or you can join an existing team by going on to the mapper, and you'll be able to see what those teams are.
Yeah.
You can contact us directly at flap.org and say, I'd like to learn more about how to participate. Again, the website, globalbirdrescue.org, gives you all the ways you can approach this. Or you can create your own team and just bring a network of people in to join you during that week-long period. So you just try to get out into your community as often as you can over that 7-day period and record the birds that you find during that time.
Now, suppose I don't know much about birds. Suppose somebody's saying, well, I don't know what type of species it is, and what do I do with the dead bird?
Right. So do not worry about identifying the bird if you're not confident what you're looking at. This isn't about so much about what species are colliding. It's about just demonstrating the severity of the problem.
Okay.
So, but if you know what the species is, great. But what this app also does, what the Global Bird Collision Mapper also allows you to do, is attach a photo with that record so that we can go back on that record and confirm the species of that bird. Okay.
So you're uploading a photo if you find that bird.
Correct.
Okay.
And that attaches itself to each record that the person submits.
And then what do we do with the carcass?
The average person participating in Global Bird Rescue, if they're participating as an individual,
Right.
there's not much you can do.
Okay.
I would be inclined to just pick that bird up and dispose of it. Okay.
Okay.
However, if you're part of a team, like for instance Flap, we've been able to network with the Royal Ontario Museum, where any dead bird that we pick up, we retain that bird and we donate it to their ornithological department, because they use that for all kinds of research purposes. They use them for tissue samples, DNA samples. They create skins out of them. They trade them with other museums across the world, so the bird doesn't go to waste, right?
Right.
Or you can even go to a university, go to an educational institute. They will often take some of these specimens off your hands, right? But it's hard for an average person that isn't part of a network to really be able to confidently find that person to drop it off to.
And I guess it's worth a mention too. I mean, obviously you should be wearing a glove and you still have to take care. There is also avian flu. So there is some risk with that, I would imagine, no?
Well, these particular concerns, it's like the Wild West in terms of exactly what are the risks here. But one thing for sure is things like you mentioned, avian flu, West Nile virus. These are typically when you're in direct exposure, not only direct exposure, but long-term exposure to this particular virus. The encounter that we typically have with a bird is very short, very little risk of blood-to-blood transmission. Gloves can certainly fix that. So I just want to help people feel, I'm not going to pretend that these threats aren't there, but it's a little bit higher of a concern than it needs to be. As long as you're taking precautions, you're going to be fine.
Well, I'm really glad we had this opportunity to connect again, Michael. You've given us a lot to think about. You know, the Greater Toronto Area offers so many varied kinds of habitats, and we are the stewards that can ensure it flourishes, and we all benefit from it. I mean, it's right there. It's tangible. There's a benefit, not only it being an urban birder's paradise to watch nature, but the things that they do for the ecosystem and for biodiversity in itself.
Yep. And the economy. Back to bird watching.
And the economy.
Like seriously,
you're absolutely right.
It is a huge increase in revenue generated. So yeah, just thought I'd point that out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My guest has been Michael Mesure. He is the co-founder and executive director of Flap Canada. For more information on the Global Bird Rescue, log online to www.flap.org. Again, be sure to check out today's show notes for links on how to participate, plus a few tips that you can apply to your own home. And as always, if you have any questions or comments on our show guests or topics, you can reach me at bigbluemarble.earth under the Contact Me link. And by the way, have you signed up for our BBM newsletter, the Big Blue Marble newsletter?
It is a monthly publication. It's free to your inbox and features a selection of other important as well as inspiring stories about our changing planet. It is free, and we have readers now from around the world, and of course we safeguard your email address. You can also find the link to subscribe at bigbluemarble.earth, or you can check out my website at www.anwarnight.com. I always appreciate your support on Twitter and Instagram at Anwar Knight, and on Facebook too at Anwar Knight TV. But that is all for now, my friends. Thank you for listening. I'm Anwar Knight, wishing you a great day on the Big Blue Marble.
That was another great show, Daddy.